From looking at this beauty today, you would never have any idea what her background included. Today, she is a pageant queen, she's a host, she's an author, speaker, and I could go on and on. But in her earlier years, she experienced bullying. Today, we are here with marvelous Marissa to talk about her journey from going from being bullied to being on Billboards. Thank you so much, Marissa, for coming all the way to Nashville to the Dr. Grace Show.
Wow. Well, it's such a truly honor to be here. I absolutely adore you. So anytime you call me, I jump up.
Well, that goes both ways. And we go back, right?
Yes,
Since
we
20,
do.
did you say 18 or 19?
2018, I interviewed you on my first time doing Atlanta Live. And I prayed and I said, God, I would love for her to be a guest on my show, but I know she's kind of stay at a distance. But when I reached out, you said yes. And I said, oh my God. So since then, you have been a tremendous blessing to me, Dr. Grace. I truly love you.
Well, that goes both ways. And
Thank
I'm so
you.
thankful that you trusted the God in me to come on your program. And we had a good time. I think we went and ate Mexican food afterwards, didn't we?
We did.
You know, I love my Mexican food. So I have watched you blossom and grow. I think we've been watching each other from a distance, ATL to the Ville, and God has been faithful to us.
Yes.
And he has most especially been faithful to you in this journey from being bullied to being on Billboards. And look at you today. Please explain to me what this lovely gown and sash and crown is about.
Yes, well, I am so honored and so blessed to be this year's 2024-2025 United International Elite Spokesmodel.
Wow.
I stand proudly on my platform, From Brokenness to Marvelous, to inspire and to encourage everyone that regardless of the broken moments you face, remember, you are still marvelous. Wow. And I love that platform. From Brokenness to Marvelous is actually the title of my book, both of my books. And the reason why, because I was once broken. I, experienced severe low self-esteem, being bullied, girls plotting to fight me in the school hallways, being harassed by my teachers, and, always being embarrassed in the classrooms. But I know that God was always with me. I always had a desire to pursue media. Ever since I was 10 years old, my mom would tell you that I will always say, I'm going to be the next Oprah. And when I said that, I always believed that, but I was in speech class from kindergarten all the way to the 6th grade. My kindergarten teacher told my mom that Marissa has a speech problem. She's not going to be able to speak in front of a crowd. She has a difficult time enunciating her words correctly. So that left me discouraged at such a young age, but God put the desire in me to want to pursue media. I went on to college. And well, before I went to college, I was always teased for talking proper, talking like a white girl. Guys did not want to date me because they said, if I take Marissa home to meet my parents, they will think that she's fake and phony because she acts like a white girl. I was always criticized. I was always criticized about my speech, my appearance. I was always a curvy girl, but I was told that I needed to lose weight. I was too fat to pursue media. I auditioned to be a 106 and Park host in 2012, and BET, it was a comment made, Marissa needs to lose weight to be one of our hosts. I was always told to lose weight, and my weight was always an issue. And it really discouraged me. I was, I had low self-esteem, didn't think I was pretty. I was always compared to my mother. My mother is a very attractive woman. And I said, well, I'm just as pretty as my mom. But, people would say, no, you're not. It just, all of that really, and I know that the enemy spoke through people to put me down. Doors were constantly shut in my face. I was up for a job at Fox 5, Atlanta, and at WSB TV, Channel 2 Action News. But I was always, the white girls will always get chosen over me, or, Marissa didn't show initiative. And I think if you drive 2 miles and you walking in rain and snow, that's initiative to me. And I was always put down, but God, he told me to not give up.
Wow.
But God, I went from being in speech class to signing my very first TV contract. in 2017.
Wow.
You know, I
Incredible.
was told that I couldn't enunciate my words correctly, but I've been on the radio hosting commercials, you know, hosting radio shows. I did a pageant back in 2008. It was called the Miss Bold and Beautiful pageant, and I was set up for failure. And that pageant is for curvy girls, but I guess I was the smallest girl in that pageant. I was set up to win, being embarrassed in class, being embarrassed on stage. But see, God had a different plan for me. 15 years later, I won an international pageant, the only African-American woman to win this year's pageant. So I just feel like God has really, he just blew my mind throughout these years, and he has vindicated me in front of all of my enemies. So I thank God for that. He said that in his word, that he will prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. So I just thank God that he didn't give up on me, and I didn't believe what the enemy said that I was. I believe what God said that I am.
Wow, and that is exactly where I wanted to go next. So in your journey,
Yes.
these insults, even character assassination, and these funny mirrors, fake mirrors, we should say, that were being held up to you, this is who you are, and trying to make you believe a false narrative about yourself. Were there times that you felt like, you know what, this isn't worth it, that you wanted to give up? So where did you go? I know you believe in God. We know that that's ultimately the foundation, but what are some practical things you'd say to someone that is looking in the mirror of who they believe God said they are, and then they also have this other image that people are trying to project to them of who others say they are? What do you do in that moment? How does faith apply in that moment? How did you engage God in that space to be sitting here today with all of these victories under your belt?
Yes, well, I went to my word and I read that God created me fearfully and wonderfully made. And I just believe that if anyone is living with low self-esteem, I believe that it's an insult to God, because you're saying that he made a mistake when he created you. And I know that God told me I did not make a mistake. I created you fearfully and wonderfully made, Marissa. You are beautiful. You are my marvelous masterpiece. And God kept telling me over again in prayer when I was crying in my closet back in 2013. I was crying in my closet, Miss Sarah, just crying, just sitting there crying. And I said, God, you know, why did this happen? You know, God, I'm told that I'm not pretty enough. I need to lose weight. You know, why? Why? You told me that I was going to do this and this and this. And he said, I told you because I am. I'm a promise keeper. And he said, you are marvelous in my eyes. See yourself as marvelous. And he told me to get up and look in the mirror. And I got up and I looked in my body mirror and I said, I am marvelous. I am marvelous. And he said, now say marvelous Marissa. I said, marvelous Marissa. And I just kept repeating that. And I'm like, I am marvelous. And I said, God did not make no mistake when he created me. So I looked in my word. I read that scripture and I said, I am marvelous. And I said, you know what? I don't care what no one say. I'm going to believe what God say about me. And ever since that moment, I've been unstoppable. And it's like sometimes I still notice that sometimes people would attack me on my job or say little things to belittle me. But I keep it going because I believe what God told me and what he showed me in my dreams. He showed me in my dreams when I was struggling the most in 2014. He showed me on this billboard. He showed me in front of this camera. He showed me with a microphone in my hand. I saw these beautiful gowns. He showed me all of this. And I said, you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up because this person said this or this network said this or, you know, this boy, I'm not going to say man, boy, said this, you know. I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to believe what God, you know, what did God say about me? Because he has the first and the last final say so.
All I can find to say right now is preach, Marissa. Okay, I'm trying to be sophisticated on this new episode. But you know, I was having a conversation with somebody just today about the ideal versus God's idea.
Right.
And sometimes we create these ideals. This is what beauty looks like.
Right.
This is what success looks like. This is what doing good looks like.
Right.
And I personally, and I'm sure you probably personally know people who have all of the ideals and are not happy.
Right.
They've got the house with the white picket fence. Maybe they have what we would call the perfect body, all of those things, and yet they're still not happy. So I think we need to kind of do our own television altar call to smash some of these ideals of what we should look like, what purpose looks like, and receive the idea of God. God said, you know, these ideals they're projecting on you, how you should speak, how you should look. First of all, whose ideals are they?
Right.
And God's idea is marvelous, Marissa.
Right.
That was your true identity.
Yes.
That was the true reflection of who you were.
Yes.
So you found the truth of your authentic identity in God's word, despite the lies of media. We love media when it's good, but media can also be a negative influence. Can you speak a little bit to that? Like how women, such as myself, flipping through, we used to have just TV and magazines. Now we have social media.
Right.
And I see maybe a woman my age, maybe my same height, not my same weight. A woman who maybe she's got nicer clothes than me. Her shoes, maybe they have the red on the bottom and mine are the black, or whatever it is where comparison starts to try to come in. What would you say to, we might not all be pageant queens,
Right.
but just women who deal with comparison of that ideal versus embodying God's idea of who they really were?
Yes, I can share this story about comparison and looking at other people. I had a former friend. And I remember she told me back in 2014, 10 years ago, she told me that I was jealous of her beauty. And no friend should ever say that to anybody. I wouldn't even say that to my worst enemy.
Wow.
Because right there at that moment, that showed me that she thought that she was better than me. But when she said that to me, it's like I started to compare myself to her. Looking at her pictures on social media, she was getting all these acting opportunities. Doors was just opening up for her, but nothing was opening up for me. So it's like when I was comparing myself to her, I felt like I was killing myself. I was like damaging myself because I constantly kept comparing myself to her. It's like what the prophet told me. He said, the enemy wants you to be jealous of her. But Marissa, if only you can see your future. I can't tell you everything, but he said, if only you can see where you're going to be 10 years from now, where you're going to be 20 years from now, if only you can see. So I want to speak to that young girl. I want to speak to that woman, even that man that is struggling. Do not compare yourself to anyone. You need to fall in love with you. Fall in love in what God created you to be. God does not make no mistake. 10 years ago, I thought that God made a mistake when he created me. I said there was an error that he did when he was creating me before he entered me in my mother's womb. But I want you to know that you are beautiful, you are phenomenal, you are divine, you are magical, you are a masterpiece. And I want you to know that you are valuable. You know, you have to know that for yourself. And when you know that, you will no longer compare yourself to anyone. And 10 years ago, I used to compare myself to this young lady, but now I'm in love with being marvelous Marissa, that I no longer do that anymore. It's like I had to find the beauty that God created. So I just, I am, oh my God, I used to always compare myself to people, Miss Sarah, even some of my family members, but no more. No more. It's like God has blessed me throughout these years. The girl who was once bullied, the girl who once had low self-esteem is now on 4 covers of magazines, on a national bestseller magazine, on like 3 just magazines, really big popular magazines. I've won an international pageant, the only African-American woman to win. So I represent every African-American woman across the world, even little girls, been on Billboards. It's like, God was like, how dare you, look what I'm doing, but you're comparing yourself. It's like I was killing myself. So now I'm like, wow. I used to sleep with a knife underneath my mattress when I was 16 years old. If I would have took that knife and would have killed myself, it's like I would have missed out on so much. So it's like, I just want you all to know that you're beautiful, that you are marvelous. You are a marvelous masterpiece, and you must know that for yourself. And once you know that, once you know who you are, and once you know that you are valuable, you will no longer look to the left or look to the right. You're going to look at what God created when you wake up in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I look a hot mess, the wig is off, the naps is everywhere, but I still look in that mirror and say, I am marvelous.
Wow. You are marvelous. We are
Yes.
here with marvelous Marissa discussing her journey on going from being bullied to being on billboards and more. We will be right back with more from marvelous Marissa. We are back with marvelous Marissa discussing her journey from being bullied to being on billboards. An amazing, amazing story. It is so personally touching too, just as another female that doesn't feel that I fit the status quo, the ideal that we talked about. And it's been a lifelong journey for me to learn to love myself. And I've also learned that some of the women I might think are the most perfect everything, like head to toe, you're perfect. They battle with those same
Yes.
feelings. I think that sometimes we become ashamed of what God is proud of, and we don't
Yes.
even realize, hey, this is the version of you I handcrafted, like you talked about in the scriptures. I made you fearfully and wonderfully, and you look at it as if I don't do good work. And you mentioned that earlier, it's an offense to God.
Yeah, it is.
And I know that it takes work to renew our minds when it comes to how we see ourselves. So I want to dig in a little bit further into other people's opinions. I know we privately have discussed in our own personal lives some of the voices
Yes.
that have come to us and said negative things about us. It's one thing if it's social media, maybe even someone that you wanted to get a job from. But what if it's someone closer to your heart? How do we process that?
Yes. Well, that hurts more when it's
Yeah.
somebody that's close. I know that before we start the show, I shared the story with you how, one of my closest relatives told me that I needed to lose weight, that I needed to take some pills or drink a substance that would make me go to the bathroom. And that hurt me. And they
Right.
told me that before it was time for me to go on camera. So I'm doing the prayer room announcements on Atlanta Live, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I look? And I'm supposed to
Right.
be encouraging people to bring their lives to Christ. You know how Atlanta Live
Yeah.
is. But in the back of my mind, I'm looking at my dress. I'm trying to, hold
Right.
the stomach in, and it just really affected me at that moment. But I said, you know what? God is not looking at my way. He already know
Right.
how I look. He created us,
Right.
So I said, you know what? I have to block that out of my mind. And eventually I had to walk away from that person. And now I'm unstoppable. I'm on camera. I don't,
Yeah.
that comment that they said it went back to the pits of hell where it
Right.
belongs.
Right.
So, I just had to learn to discipline myself because that came from someone very close to me, but, to God be the glory. My
Right.
weight does not determine my future. God told me that I am destined for greatness. He told me that he was going to put me on red carpets and, on national stages, and he did just that. And my weight was never an issue. But see, 10 years ago, I thought that my weight was an issue, or my hair, or, my speech. But God, that's why I say God has the first and the final say-so
first and the
over
final.
our lives. So, you just have to discipline yourself, and you have to know what to receive and what not to receive. I wrote a chapter in my second book, From Brokenness to Marvelous, Part 2. There's a difference between constructive criticism and haterism. There's
Come
a
on.
difference.
Teach us today. Yeah.
There's a difference. Like, is this constructive feedback? Is this going to help me? Or are you just saying this just to tear me down? Or you see me going higher. Because sometimes when you are walking in your purpose and when you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you may be friends with someone, they don't want you to go higher than them. They want you to stay
Right.
at a certain level. So, I was dealing with that as well. So you just have to learn to discipline yourself. God, is this you speaking, or is this the devil speaking?
Right.
That's when you go and ask God for discernment. And I have to ask God for discernment every day because, Miss Sarah, on my job, people, they try to belittle you.
Right.
Or try to say, well, if you have all that going on, then why aren't you doing this full time? Or why aren't you, why are you in here? I'm in here because God put me here. I'm in here because it's some people that I need to connect with, but I'm not going to always be here. When I leave, the anointing is going to leave. So,
that part.
Right. They walk away on that part.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't even know sometimes that the presence of God is accompanying those that are calling on him. Until that presence is gone and they come to work and say something is
missing.
different here.
Yes.
You brought up a point that I think is so important, and that's another conversation I had recently too. The paradox some of us experience of being public in our work and our presentation, and people may look from the outside on the good side and go, oh, look at them, they're doing it. And we're still dealing with everyday life stuff.
Yes.
We're still dealing with, it takes faith to do the things that we're called to do. And there may be someone watching that's like, I feel like I'm supposed to be a pageant queen or a TV host or whatever the case may be, but yet maybe I'm driving a car service right now, or I'm delivering groceries, or I have a speech impediment, or I don't have the education, or whatever the case may be. Read my bio. I destroy all educational requirements for the work I do, because by the grace of God, everything I've been doing, I've done with my highest level of completed education.
Right.
Being a GED, I started television, wrote books, all those things. So what would you say to that person that's got that paradox of feeling great, feeling like they're called, but because they're driving or they're doing a job that they think others would be dismissive about, and it's affecting their identity? What would you say to that person who is battling with the pull in both directions?
Yes. Well, I just want to say this. 10 years ago, I used to be a leasing consultant, working in the leasing offices for apartments. And, but I just graduated from Clark Atlanta with my mass media arts degree. But doors were constantly shut in my face, and I was constantly, Dr. Sarah, being, rejected, told that I wasn't good enough. But you know what? I took a leap of faith. I was in speech class. I was bullied, teased for talking proper, told that I needed to lose weight. This station didn't want me. This station didn't want me. This network told me I do not like the way she talked. She would never be on my network in New York. I went through all of that, and I was a leasing consultant, showing apartment homes, leasing apartment homes. But that moment came when the opportunity was right there for me to step out on faith. And I said, you know what, God, if this is of you, the world says this about me, but God, what do you say? God, if it's in your will for me to still be that talk show host, to still be that public speaker, to still be that influencer, that brand, God, I declare that you're going to touch this man's heart and he's going to give me my first yes. This was 5 years after graduating from Clark Atlanta. And I said, God, if this is in your will, I declare and I decree my first yes. And Dr. Sarah, with me being a leasing agent, leasing apartment homes, that morning, I got my first yes because I stepped out on faith. That moment, I decided to believe in myself. And in that meeting that I had with him at WATC, he said, Marissa, yes, we will be honored to have you be our television host here, to host your own show. And I said, wow. Now, that comes with more money. We have to pay for our programs. So I said, okay, God, my livelihood. How am I going to pay for this? I'm just a leasing agent. You know how much we get paid in those leasing offices. But God paid for that show. The sponsorships came, the donations. My mother, bless her heart, she was my very first sponsor because she believed in me and she knew what I went through. So ever since that moment of me stepping out on faith and believing in me, I'm a girl who once had low self-esteem, who wanted to commit suicide, who struggled in college, who has severe low self-esteem, who's been degraded and disrespected by men. But baby, I am a living witness that by me stepping out on faith in August of 2017, that was 7 years ago, now I am an international award-winning host.
Amazing.
Just by stepping out on faith. I know that circumstances, I know that life can be lifing. They say life can be lifing.
It can.
Life can be challenging, but you have to step out on faith, block all those naysayers. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and do it. Just do it, regardless of your education, the circumstance. You may have a whole lot of children, or, you know, maybe living in low income. It doesn't matter. If God said yes, that's all the yes you need. That's all. That's the only yes. That's the only yes you need. Fox 5 told me no. WSB told me no. BET told me no. But my Father, who sits on the throne, who created you and I, he told me yes. Now, that was 7 years ago. And with me stepping out on faith, I've hosted gospel radio shows. I've published books. I'm a best-selling author. All of my book signings has all been a success. You can ask my mother. Every last book signing has been a success. I've won awards, and now I am an international pageant queen.
Amazing.
So all you have to do, beloved, is just step out on faith and believe in you.
Wow, incredible.
Yes.
So we're coming down to our last few minutes, but I think you just made a great segue to what is the cost if somebody says, I still don't want to do it? Who could be lost on the other side of your yes? Speak to somebody who's on the edge of saying yes and just needing a little more push to say, okay, because there's people that need to see you do it so that you're today motivating people. Had you not said yes, and the residual impact of that, we're never going to know.
If I never would have said yes, I would never have met you.
Right.
If I never would have said yes in August of 2017, my face would not have been on Billboards. I would not have published the books. If I never had said yes, I would not be a TV journalist for Fatal Attraction or For My Man on TV One. You know, if I never would have said yes, I would have never been on the Dr. Grace show. So by me saying yes, by me stepping out on faith and believing in what God promised me, Miss Sarah, I would not be here. So I'm crying because I'm just amazed on how my life changed in the fact that my mother came down here. She sacrificed. With her coming down here, my life has changed for the better. So if I would never have said yes, I wouldn't be here. I probably would be lost. You know, when you're not walking in your purpose, you feel lost. You feel like, where am I? You know, so if I would never have said yes, I would have missed out on so much opportunity. I would have missed out on so much. So, beloved, if you are on the edge of your seat, it's time for you to jump. And Jesus is right there holding your hand. Look at me. I am a living testimony. If God did this for me, he is the same God that can do it for you. So just step out on faith, believe in you, and know that you are marvelous. And you're going to see so many marvelous blessings. It's going to, trust me, I am just blown away. So you can have this same exact smile. So I would say jump, do it, and watch God work.
Wow. He meets us in our yes.
Yes.
Well, and I can relate
now,
to that.
That's a word.
Yeah.
He meets us at our yes. Okay,
yes.
That's a title.
Do we need an episode too?
Yes.
He meets us
at our yes.
Yes. It's incredible. Just an amazing story. And I like to use the word embodiment a lot, that we are the embodiment of Christ.
Yes.
And I believe that God takes on our lives the way that we give it to them. And who knew that Jesus wanted to be seen as a pageant queen and a host, and for me, maybe a TV host and an author and a speaker. But I believe that God is wearing our lives.
Yes.
He said in the scriptures, as the Father has sent me, so I send you. So we have to recognize that if it's not just a pulpit calling, it's not just a preacher's calling. You can be called to be a doctor. You could be called to be a pageant queen. You could be called to be an author. Whatever the case may be, just as you hear our voices today, your voice matters. Your story, your background, maybe there's a book you're sitting on, there is a TV show, a podcast you're sitting on. Whatever the case may be, Marvelous Marissa, and I can also testify that God will use unlikely people to do things that he planned.
Yes.
There's no surprises with him. And I want to say again, we shouldn't be ashamed of what God is proud of. He packaged us for our purpose in the way that he wanted us to be received. So with just a few seconds left, tell us how to get in touch with you. And thank you again for coming and being on the Dr. Grace Show to tell your amazing, your marvelous story of going from being bullied to being on Billboards.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was such an honor, such a blessing. I truly love you and I respect you.
I love you too.
Yes, but you all can follow me on my social media platforms. It's Marvelous Marissa, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, IG, all things Marvelous. I am out there. And if you're looking for your next host for your next event, contact Marvelous Marissa today. I'm always here to the rescue.